Hey everybody, another Breaking the 180 live. So we just saw one of the
Oh,
year's
scoot in a little bit
most
so everyone.
fun surprises, and that is John Woo's Silent Night. It was quite something to say the least.
Let's just put it simply for everyone. It fucking ruled.
It's a fun return to form for John Woo, who, I mean, if you're into action movies, you know the name. This is one of the top directors in the genre in the world, and Silent Night is a true return to form for him, and no dialogue. He was not kidding when he sold this as a silent movie. For
It
as
it
Silent
is.
Night is a silent movie.
I mean, there's so many impressive things about it. First and foremost, we should say that John Woo is a 77-year-old man,
Yeah,
and he made one of the most intense, fun movies of the year. This was a true surprise in the sense that, it's nice to see directors make a return. John Woo hasn't directed a Hollywood movie in 20 years or
20
10.
no 20 years. So
20
he's
years.
been working overseas. He's been releasing some stuff um in Asia and in other markets, but his last Hollywood film was 2003's Paycheck, which was not well received at the time. He had made that after a string of other films, including Wind Talkers and his biggest hit in the United States, Mission Impossible 2, which is actually still a good movie. I saw it recently, and that's
You know
actually
what?
still, that one still holds up.
Thank you for bringing that up. We talked a little bit about it on our Do We Recommend for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mouthful, I know. But Mission Impossible 2, it's the black sheep of the family, but it's an excellent movie. I,
It's
I
got great
don't
style. Yeah.
know. I mean, I suppose it's context, right? After Brian De Palma, I suppose nobody expected that they would swing for John Woo, but it's the same energy he injected into that film. You see it here.
Well, he's got such a distinctive style, and what's nice about this movie is it's almost a nice summation of everything he's been doing since his Hong Kong days with The Killer and Hard Boiled and those movies. You see traces of the style he established there in this movie, mixed with him using a lot of the newer technological advantages and adapting his technique to what you can do now with CGI, with digital cameras, with the kind of steady cam you can do nowadays, and it's very impressive. It's a movie
It's
that
remarkable.
it's very remarkable because see, this movie is a perfect example of not so much style over substance, but the sheer exercise of style, where the plot has, the familiar elements you recognize from some of his movies. This doesn't spoil, but for example, the main catalyst for the action is something you might recognize from Face Off, in terms of what drives the hero,
Yes.
but it's still about how impressive the technique is, and how the action is. We've compared John Wick to ballet, and this one does the same thing with the action scenes. Yeah.
It's true. And we've touched on this subject a lot when it comes to reviewing movies on this podcast, whether it's on Instagram or what we record just audio only. There is a particular kind of movie that's very special, which is not necessarily Tarkovsky. It's not that it's like you watch and you're just like, holy shit, like I need to watch this 6 more times to really get everything. But you have a movie that is simple, and I say simple not in a derogatory way, but simple as in it's a very um, traditional, simple, easy framework that is executed with such perfection.
Yeah.
No one else but John Woo could have made a movie like this. And I really respect that. It's the idea of taking the idea of filmmaking, the idea of action and camera movement as an artwork and telling the story through that only. I
Yeah.
mean, it, like I was clapping, I was cheering, I was laughing. It's just
It's
it's
a fun
great,
time. Yeah,
and
it's
there's no fat, zero fat.
there's no fad, and the pacing is pretty masterful. Wu's always been very good with pacing, whether it's his longer movies or his shorter films, because he doesn't waste a moment, right? So in this movie, it's there's no dialogue, no one's speaking, but every scene shows you something and says something through uh, the images, and that's how the story progresses and how the hero's motivations are explained. And it's pretty impressive how this movie clearly gets across what plot point A to Z is without doing what other movies do, which is over exposition, having to over explain everything.
No
This,
funeral in the rain
yeah,
scene. No,
yeah.
but that's another
Although
great
John Woo
point.
would have made that work, I think,
That's true.
if
That's
he did it.
true.
Yeah,
No, I really like the fact that you brought up visual storytelling because I talked about camera work and action as the storytelling, but we're talking about basic film grammar. This is actually a shining example for up and coming filmmakers, indie filmmakers, hell, even big studio filmmakers. You don't need to over explain things. Just remember the camera is a character in the film. And John Woo shows us, oh yeah, show a photo, show someone sitting alone in a garage drinking. We get it. We get what's going on.
let
It
the
all makes sense.
actions drive the
Literally.
story. Yeah, uh, and not too long. It's just what, like an hour
It's
and
a it's like it's basically 90 minutes
yes. So
with credits. It
he doesn't overstay his welcome because
no, not at all.
he knows the premise would lose steam, especially without dialogue, if he carries it on for too long. But and also because it's all action driven, so he knows just for how long to keep it going. And funny enough,
However, I should add it's not like Uncut Gems, which is just like constant movement all the time.
right?
In fact, the action only really kicks off about I don't know, like an hour into the movie. There's actually a very good
Yeah.
build up to when Joel Kinnaman, who plays our protagonist, starts like taking names.
Oh yeah. Well, but again, all of those scenes show him training, tracking down his adversaries, putting together a battle plan, but all in but without the need of long monologues or expositions. And it actually made me think about how so many action movies, the dialogue really is just filler, right? Unless you have a very well written action movie, which is the case. I mean, I'm thinking of Lethal Weapon and
Well,
The
even
Predator and The
John
Rock.
Wick 4. I think John Wick 4 of all the John Wick movies, it had the most dialogue, but it
Yeah,
was also the best written dialogue of the series. Is it a
John Wick.
masterclass in writing? No. But out of all the John Wick movies,
Well, for that genre, yeah, because action is right as a genre. When you talk about good writing, I mean, I'm even thinking of Mad Max: Fury Road. That one actually has very good dialogue, but
but not too much of it.
not too much of it.
It's virtually a silent film too.
Yes.
Excellent comparison. Mad Max Fury Road, I remember seeing it in theaters and I had my mind blown. I had not seen a movie like that in theaters. And I was just thinking, oh wow, so you can make just an literally an action, not action as in stunt action, which it is, but by the actions of characters that can drive a movie with no dialogue.
Well, yeah. I mean, the trick with good action films has always been finding an engaging enough narrative that isn't trying too hard, but at the same time is aiming for art. Like last Christmas, I watched Die Hard again, and Die Hard works precisely because it's a very simple plot, but everything is clear. It's not overcooked, and this one has kind of that same spirit where it's not overcooked. Same with Speed, all those really good action movies. It's very just
But what makes those special too,
like
not only the
easy to take
action,
in.
simple framework, but the way that framework, it's like a pie crust. Like a pie crust, you can make it simply, but how you fill in the pie crust, it's up to the baker to decide how complicated, how intricate they
Oh,
want to
sure,
make
sure,
it.
yeah,
And I like, I mean,
yeah.
something. like Speed. I mean, come on, Dennis Hopper is actually like very, very
Was
well written in that movie.
well, but that's the thing, right? Like, I think the trick to good action films is good writing at the service of a very, uh, very accessible premise, right? In Speed, they have to, this bus can't go under a certain speed limit or it'll blow up. In Silent Night, it's a classic revenge story. We don't want to spoil too much of the plot, but it's a classic. Just the guy has to get even for what was done to him.
Hot
Uh,
take, I've never seen a better choreographed action movie than Kingsman. Hey, Benny. No, actually, great point. Kingsman, the first
Kingsman's a
one, the
good one.
first one.
The first one is
The other
actually very
two
good.
have a lot of problems. The prequel has a great sequence with Rasputin, but that and the scene in the trench, but that's the only good part.
Yes,
No, the first Kingsman, excellent point. It knew how to tell a story through its action sequences. I completely agree with you.
I would still argue John Wick tops it in choreography, and even The Matrix. Of course, The Matrix, that's kind of a high bar because that's probably the most influential action movie of the last 20 something years. But you are right in pointing out the Kingsman, which is that is an example, another skillful, very good action movie. Uh, you know what? I actually would kind of compare. This one's like a rugged cousin of those movies.
It's
Silent Night is
true.
like a rugged, but at the same time, what's interesting is I think the Kingsman. I wouldn't be shocked if that director is borrowing anyway from John Woo. I mean, John Woo just set so many standards in this genre back in the 80s and 90s that it's almost like most major action films since then owe something to him.
Well, you mentioned The Matrix. I have no doubt The Matrix,
Oh, it's a total,
quote,
yeah.
quote,
Tell me,
John Woo.
a lot of John Woo
But
winks
but
in
it's
that movie.
true. And I don't know. It's just I think something for me that I find very special with the subgenre of action driven films is that just sometimes you forget how great movies like this can be. This was such a great reminder of like, yeah, like you can really make a special fun movie that I can't wait to rewatch. It's just you remember all the beats. It's brutal, it's fun, it's witty. The way that they use the gun choreography, cars, the landscape. There's a great oneer at the end of the movie without giving away. If you've seen No Time to Die, it has hints of the end of that movie.
Yeah, well, it's very yeah, the style. Well, what's impressive is how Wu is actually working on a small budget here. It's not even an Expendables 4 size budget.
Ah, so
It's actually it looks 100 million times better
right.
than that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one thing.
less
Another
is
thing
more. Less is more in
I
this
want to
case.
bring up. It just makes me feel even more repulsed by Expendables 4 and really makes me think of how like illegal of a movie it is. That movie cost $100 million and it's the worst movie of the century probably. And this movie was I there's no way it was made for more than $50 million. No way. No way. No
No,
way. No way. And this is infinitely better.
yeah, and well, because Wu has such confidence in his technique that he knows how to use simple sets, simple locations, and a very clear cut story to make something totally stylized without having to become too dependent on the fluff.
There's no
Yeah,
fluff
there's
at
no
all.
fluff. He just,
Actually,
yeah.
the end of the movie, once our protagonist accomplishes his goal, you get one scene after that, and it's done.
Set to go. Set to go. Yeah.
That's it. We don't need more.
But that's the beauty of Wu's style. It's I was watching some of his previous work, and even Face Off, right, with that whole complicated premise of Nicolas Cage and John Travolta essentially playing each other. And if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, you have
Oh,
to.
you
It's
got
it's
it.
it's it's an
Like, no, 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 no,
essential.
no. Stop watching us right now and just go watch it.
Go
It's a
find it.
classic. It's an American classic.
But it's very it's also it does that. It even though the premise is so fantastical, Wu doesn't necessarily go for over the top staging in terms of his locations,
Hmm.
his scenarios. He knows how to turn a church standoff into something very stylish and beautiful.
Well, even the last scene. Again, we're not going to give anything away, but it didn't need to be shot as wonderfully as it was.
No big
And
speeches or anything.
and
Yeah.
in fact, one thing I do want to talk about is the cinematography. I expected a movie like this to look, relatively flat, and I would not have blamed it at all because that's not the priority. But no, this actually looks there are lots of really beautifully lit and staged shots. I'm not talking about the camera work, that's something a little bit different, but just the lighting scheme,
Oh, it's fantastic.
especially at the end, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful work by John Woo. Again, it's great to see a master come back with something that's also so him. I think he just needed a break from the Hollywood system where after MI2, I think Hollywood tried too hard to or he maybe tried too hard to adapt to the demands of the big studio system. He made some he made his movies in the OOs were big, but you didn't really feel the heart and soul in them. Except MI2, I really think he enjoyed making that one. But
You
this
know
one,
what? That might get reappraised after this.
yeah, maybe, hopefully, and
And
we're
for the record, we're stating now, we've always liked MI2.
yeah,
I've never disliked. Actually, the Mission Impossible franchise is one of the only franchises that I don't think has a single bad entry
yeah.
so far.
No,
So
exactly.
far,
No, I totally agree. I think Mission Impossible 2 is a fantastic action film on its own. On its own, even if you haven't seen the other movies, it's actually very very enjoyable on its own. You can judge it on its own merit. But this is great. This is a great holiday popcorn movie. Go
not
check it
not
out.
not just Christmas, but it goes through an entire calendar year. So you can pick any holiday and
Yeah.
it will work. No, it is truly remarkable. I was incredibly blown away. I don't know if it will end up on my list for best of the year.
Right.
It could, but it's very close. It's very, very close.
I
Um,
definitely will put in my honorable mentions. I always have an honorable mention section beneath the top 10, and this one definitely will go in there. I had a much better time at this movie
then Wish.
than Wish
Oh
a
God.
hundred million
Which
times.
which we were going to record something on, but we were with a good friend of ours, and
I just
other things
I
slipped away.
honestly just have nothing to say on it.
Well, let's talk about it
No,
now. 5 minutes.
I have nothing to say on it.
It's
It's it
it's
it
dog
it, it,
water.
it bombed at the box office
It's
anyway,
it's
so
made for
I'm good.
white neoliberals who like empty platitudes. The animation is god awful, and the songs, let's just say, are on par with an elementary school.
It was just
God
Disney's
awful.
weakest entry in a long time, but
It sucked.
I just kind of have nothing else to say about it.
Yeah.
But
So there's our review for that. But this,
I actually enjoy. You know what? It's a controversial statement, but I enjoyed it more than even Maestro. I actually had a better time at this than Maestro. Not to slam
this meaning Silent Night,
Silent Night,
not Wish.
not Wish.
Okay, good. I was about to slap you.
Not to slam Maestro. It's got great cinematography, very good performances, but it's not as focused as this movie. And I know they're completely different genres, but if you compare them, you'll see what I mean. So yeah, if you just want to have a good popcorn time, go check
Not
out.
even just good popcorn time. If you want to see a masterclass in how to execute action, basically a new age silent movie. I mean, it
Yeah,
is.
you know what? An interesting comparison I'll make. Wu does on a better level what Krasinski claimed he was doing with The Quiet Place, because that was how A Quiet Place was advertised, right? That it's a silent movie. It's a silent film. Both movies, Quiet Place 1 and 2. Wu actually pulls it off here, because when Quiet Place doesn't quite know what to do, it actually reverts to dialogue. Silent Night never needs that. It actually stays silent for the whole running time.
And does
Because
become
yeah,
distracting.
it doesn't. No.
Like you kind of forget about it, and then you're like, God damn, this son of a bitch did it. He lit. Well, actually, the only dialogue you hear is on the radio, And I think Joel Kinnaman, who we mentioned, I don't think we've mentioned, is the star of the movie. I mean, he basically is the Punisher in this movie. His wife, I think you hear her say "thank you," and that's it. That's literally it.
No, definitely. It's very impressive in terms of craft, and it is a master class in craft and technique. So, Silent Night, it opens December 1st.
Please speak with your wallets. It is totally, totally worth it.
Go check it out. It's quite a good time.
Even better at the Alamo Draft House. If you have
Yes.
anything like that near you, it will enhance the experience tenfold.
Yes. Uh, what a fun time. Go check it out. Give the master John Woo a sign that we want him back and we want more of him at 77. Hey, if Ridley Scott's doing Napoleon at 87. Oh, that's another one. I had a way better time at this than Napoleon, so I'll just put it that way. If Ridley Scott is still doing Napoleon at 87, John Woo still has a decade left, if not more, of many more good films in him. So this was definitely a fun time, and we recommend you check it out.
A hundred
Yeah, this
100%.
Friday.
And in the meantime, well, we're in the middle of the award season, so I still need to catch up on Maestro. So maybe I'll agree with you. Maybe we'll be the rift in the podcast. We don't know. As well as what else are we waiting on? Anatomy of a Fall,
Ferrari. I really enjoyed what the Zone of Interest.
Oh yes,
by,
I really want to
by
see
Jonathan Glazer, fantastic movie. But what we do have coming up right around the corner is our big Heat episode. We're not fibbing. We just recorded the first half. Second half will be recorded this week, and then we'll have that coming your way
as soon as possible. There's a lot because we're talking about the movie itself. We're talking about the book. And we're talking about how widespread the influence is, not just in film, but in video games too.
Yes, and
like it's kind of nuts. So,
and we have, and of course, we're going to culminate our Michael Mann series with Ferrari. So stay tuned for all of that.
Yes,
we have it all planned out already.
It's true. We just well, first we need to figure out our quote unquote last episode of the series, which deals with his 2000s work, his digital revolution.
We just have to put the package in your mailbox. That's all we have to do.
So
that's what's coming up. Remember to like our video,
share it, please do, and
rate us.
Put your Apple Podcasts, please. We want to hear from you. As we mentioned before, we just like to hear from friends and strangers, but also on a more practical level, it helps us with the algorithm. It would be a huge help, and we read everything. We're at that stage. We like it. So,
well, Silent Night. Check it out this week. Be on the lookout for everything else that's coming up, everybody.
Till next time. Peace.
Happy holidays.